next three in a very, 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 very rare and unique type of sherry cask. It has a very fruity, velvety, soft aroma that matches the way it goes down.
Kind of like a flower.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, I think it ties in. They know their flowers there. So next on our tour, Dan's going to Dan's taking us to Craiglachie, which he's just always just going on and on and on about Craiglachie this. Yo. Oh. So Dan, here's tell us a little bit about Craiglachie. What off the cuff here. What you usually talk about.
Yeah, I don't know much about Craiglachie. I'm not going to try to fool you here, but I do know what is bottled and I love from Craiglachie.
Oh, you're just skipping right to... Oh, okay, all right.
Right to the meat of the matter.
Well, don't you do that on Dufftown, where you're taking us next. But anyways, go ahead.
Well, my favorite Scotch, Macallan.
Oh, yes.
Comes from Craiglachie.
Yes.
This what I'm about to sample here is the Macallan at 12. It's a double cask.
Yep.
Yes, and you were telling me earlier about the casking of how this works. So you tell me that.
Okay.
Re-educate me, and then I'm going to educate you
what it tastes like.
Some Macallan.
Okay, so the Macallan double cask, what makes it really unique, people don't realize this, it is of course very common in the Scotch industry to bring over ex-bourbon barrels from here in the U.S. to use, first use bourbon barrels and then reuse them to age Scotch in. That is not uncommon, but what is really interesting, what Macallan did here, and I don't know if this has been done before, it is a newer Scotch, and it's a newer concept. They brought American white oak. They bought American white oak from here in the U.S., brought it over, then made the cask and filled it with their Macallan. So there was never bourbon aged in it. So the Macallan's going into it and getting all that fresh, brand new American white oak, and then separately they age sherry or Macallan in a sherry cask, both for 12 years. At the end, put them together. You have Macallan 12 double cask, and it's such an amazing price for that product.
How much is that product?
I think it's only still in the 50 range.
Wow.
Like 50, I think 59, which for a Macallan 12 and how unique it is, 59 is incredible.
Which is a very nice segue.
Oh, okay.
Into the story I wanted to tell you.
Please.
So if you've ever seen the James Bond series with Daniel Craig, Skyfall, there's a Scotch in there.
Mm-hmm.
The villain takes James Bond's girlfriend, puts her against a big chunk of wood, and puts a shot of Macallan on her head. And he asks James Bond to take a shot at the shot glass.
Oh.
That Macallan is a Macallan 50.
Oh! What do you think that would... I know the 18 is like roughly $200,
well,
roughly, give or take.
I happen to know that number.
Oh, okay.
I sort of know that number.
What do you think it is, Doug? How much do you think the Macallan 50 goes for? I'm going to guess $10,000.
I was going to say 5, but you might be close. You might be.
I'm
right
wondering if 10's low, but I'm just going to go. I'm thinking 9,000-10,000.
Well, you're getting closer.
Is it higher?
18,000.
Well, James Bond takes this shot at his girlfriend. He aims high right, purposely.
Yeah.
So the villain just grabs the gun and shoots her.
Oh, I remember this scene. Yes, yes.
And the shot of Macallan falls onto the ground.
Yes.
He looks at James Bond and says, "What do you think of that, Mr. Bond?"
Probably a waste of good Scotch.
Damn fine waste of good Scotch.
Oh.
But that is Macallan 50. And the Macallan 40, I don't know what the 50 goes for.
Okay, but you know what the 40 goes for.
Macallan 40 is a $15,000 bottle of Scotch.
15, wow.
So Macallan 50 can only be more.
Wow. Very interesting. Well, Dan, guess what? You're also telling us about your second favorite town after Craiglachie.
I'd like to hang out here a little longer, if that's all right.
That's fine.
Skip over me and come back.
All right. Doug. Well, either way, we're in Dufftown, so we're going to skip. This will be Balvenie. We're gonna go to Dufftown. So actually, Doug will tell us about Dufftown because we're gonna do 2 stops in Dufftown. Yes. So Doug's gonna tell us about Dufftown.
So Dufftown. It's a fascinating place, also near Speyside. And Dufftown, Fred, is a burg in Moray, Scotland, which was also part of the stomping grounds of the Comyn clan back in the day.
Oh.
One of the castles that still has ruins there was Balvenie Castle, which is also one of our old family haunts.
The Comyns were everywhere.
They owned most of the land, lad. You should have joined our side. Dufftown is also famous because once a year in July they host the Highland Games there that draws in a lot
that's
of
where
folks.
that's at. Okay.
Not, I'm sure, quite a bit different and bigger than the one in Ligonier. Yeah, Ligonier has one too in September.
You know what's interesting? So that's where they host the Highland Games, but that's actually a Speyside area.
It is.
Just putting that out there.
Well, it says a Highland Games, so it doesn't say the Highland Games.
Okay.
So, but they do have it. The street plan of Dufftown is mainly 4 main roads that meet at the Dufftown Clock Tower, from which I'm told that if you get up to a certain speed in your DeLorean, you can actually time travel.
And they're currently also taking up donations to save the clock tower, is what I heard as well.
They are, yes.
So Dan's going to tell us about it. We did. That's right.
So one of the great scotches that they make there is Balvenie.
You're Glenfiddich next.
And I happen to have a sample of Balvenie Doublewood 12-year scotch here.
It's the same town. He's just going to drink Glenfiddich.
Yeah, yours is blank, lad. You're on your own. So Balvenie 12-year is what I have here. It's a single malt scotch.
Okay. Now this is the double. Is it double wood? What is it called? A double.
Let's not get personal, lad.
It's called Balvenie 12 double wood, right? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay. And I think that's also an ex-bourbon and sherry, which again is very common.
Well, it says it's matured in 2 different types of oak cask.
Mm-hmm. Does it say on it? I think it's ex-bourbon and sherry.
It doesn't say.
I'll put some money down on it. I think it's ex-bourbon and sherry.
You certainly may. Yes.
So what do you think about it? Whiskey oak? No, not a first cask whiskey oak and a second cask sherry. I was wrong. Not an ex-bourbon.
It's from a little further south in Scotland, but nowhere near the peaty areas of Scotland, and yet there's a little more smoke.
Yeah.
In this particular scotch. No, I wouldn't describe it as peaty,
right,
but it definitely has a little more of a smoky taste and flavor to it.
Interesting.
Still very good.
So Dan, there's another stop in Dufftown, right? Another area of interest in Dufftown.
Doug, he's driving. So.
Well, Rob's driving.
Okay, Rob's driving, and we're going to stop. He is tonight. We're staying here tonight, Doug.
He's in Dufftown.
I'm sleeping. I'm sleeping under the clock tower.
What else is in Dufftown here, Dan?
Well, Glenfiddich.
Glenfiddich! What a coincidence!
And I happen to have one right here in my hand, which is it's a very enjoyable, very nice.
Is it double wood?
It is not double wood.
No,
not everybody can be a Comyn.
I would.
It is a sherry and bourbon cask.
Oh, okay. Again, it's just that's what's common. I mean, the whole
There's very little, if any, peat to this.
It's just it's still a Speyside. It's just got a little bit more body than a Glenlivet. It's got more earth to it.
It does. It's a solid scotch.
It is. I always say that. I always tell people if you want to start with a Glenlivet. If you like Glenlivet, continue to explore it, but then you move up to a Glenfiddich. And if you still like Glenfiddich, then you like Scotch and keep experimenting.
Well, since we're staying here overnight, I could keep experimenting.
Now, so actually, we're going to go a little bit further south, and we're going to go just past. We're going to stay in the forest now, and we're going to go just past the Braemar Castle to the town of Dalwhinnie, which I'm sure you can figure out where we're heading.
With Dalwhinnie.
Oh yeah, did you?
Yeah, I did.
When he was Scottish.
I'm sure he was.
So, Doug, take us on a virtual tour. What do you recall about Dalwhinnie from your collegiate research?
Well, Fred, First thing I remember is the altitude.
I thought it was the last thing you forget.
The altitude. How? Of course.
Dalwhinnie sits at an altitude of 351 meters.
Oh, that's very interesting.
I thought you would find that fascinating. It's actually one of the coldest villages in the UK.
Oh.
Has an average annual temperature. You want to guess?
Average, was it in Fahrenheit or Celsius?
No, it's in Celsius.
I'm so bad with Celsius. I don't know. Average, I'm going to say 17 average.
6.6.
Ooh!
Wow, that's cold.
Boy!
Making it suitable for winter walking and mountaineering.
Oh, that would be the place to go.
Yeah. So it's about 2 to 2.5 hour drive from Edinburgh and Glasgow.
Okay.
So it's, you can get to larger cities if you need to, but it sounds like a nice mountain getaway for folks that like the outdoors. And they make Dalwhinnie.
Oh, Dalwhinnie. So tell us about that.
Well, Dalwhinnie is... Here, let me see what it says.
How could we have done this without Rob?
We would not have gotten anywhere without Rob.
Rob is our Vanna White, in case you're wondering.
It's also a Highland single malt Scotch, 15 years aged.
I'm interested. I know what I think about the Dalwhinnie. You tell me what you think, and then I'll tell you what their branding is, and see if your first reaction matches the way they describe themselves.
So I was curious. I've not tried this before, and I was curious whether the altitude would make a difference, or the cold temperatures. In which
I think the cold does. I think the cold does have an effect.
Does it make you feel high?
It seems to mellow it somehow.
Yes.
It's very smooth.
It is a very mellow, very very light, smooth, mellow Scotch. It's a very
still has more of that smoky taste, like the last one that I had. So it seems the further south we go, the more smoky we get. But it's very very gentle.
Yeah, Dalwhinnie is definitely known as a very smooth, light.
And look at that right on the bottle. It says it's the
gentle spirit. That's what I said. That's how they brand it. It is a gentle Scotch.
I would concur with that, lad.
Mm-hmm. So moving, you all done? Anything else about Dalwhinnie?
Yes, now.
Okay, so moving along, Dan's going to tell us about West Dunbartonshire. Now we're pretty extreme south here. We're probably just north of England. We're near Glasgow at this point. So we're
to the west of Glasgow, to be exact.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
What's the altitude, lad?
I don't know the altitude.
But what do you know about West Dunbartonshire?
You know what? Not much.
Okay.
Neither does Wikipedia.
Way to just
I'll be giving away the sources.
give away our education.
I thought
here.
I was the only one using it.
No.
Oh, you guys are cheating too.
Well, tell us what Wikipedia says about West Dunbartonshire. Now that you've ruined it.
Well, it lies to the west of Glasgow.
Oh.
That's the only thing.
No, that's really all you're going to give us, huh?
That's it.
What? There's like a whole page. Really?
It's not interesting. It's kind of boring stuff.
Yeah, lies to the west of Glasgow.
Let's get to the whiskey, lad.
Well, the council there was a council, and it elected a shadow authority in 1995.
The deep state.
Yeah, the deep state goes back to 95 there in West Dunbartonshire. So there you go. But anyways, it has a distillery. What do you know?
It does. This is the Auchentoshan.
Oh, yes, we want to hear about that.
This is kind of a unique little yummy. Now, give me a second here. I'm going to sniff and taste. Yeah, very different. It's got some vanilla, some coconut, some citrus going on there. It's a different kind of a Scotch. I'm not saying I don't like it.
Is that good or bad?
I think it's very good. I think it's a different taste for a different palate.
It's a Scotch worthy of the deep state.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not sure I'm going to call it a traditional Scotch. But it's something new.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something different.
You know what? It's interesting. So it's called this is the American White Oak, right?
Yes.
Or the American Oak. I'm sorry. So Auchentoshan American Oak. It really is a true. It lies somewhere taste wise between a Scotch and a bourbon, and of course they really hammer home with the American Oak that they age it in an ex-bourbon barrel, which again a lot of these Scotches do. But for some reason, for some reason with this Auchentoshan American white oak, or I keep calling it white oak, American oak, it really is somewhere in between a bourbon and a Scotch, and it comes across that